Captain Jake Morrison stared at the view screen and could not believe his eyes. The stars looked different here, billions of miles from Earth, but that was not what made his heart race. What made his heart race was the massive structure floating. In space ahead of them, the thing was huge. It stretched for miles in every direction, made of some kind of dark metal that seemed to drink in the light from the nearby star. Strange symbols glowed along its surface, pulsing like a heartbeat. Jake had never seen anything like it. "Susan, are you getting this on the sensors?" Jake asked his pilot. Susan Clark leaned over her controls, her blonde hair falling across her face as she worked. "Yes, sir. The computer says it's artificial, definitely not natural. And Jake, it's old, really old." Jake nodded and turned to his communications officer. "Lisa, any response to our signals?" Lisa Warren shook her head. Her fingers moved quickly over the radio controls. "Nothing yet, Captain. But I'm picking up some kind of transmission coming from the structure. It's not directed at us, though. Looks like they're talking to someone else." "Tony, how are our weapons?" Jake asked his engineer. Tony Rodriguez looked up from his station. His dark eyes were serious. "All systems ready, Captain. But honestly, if that thing decides it doesn't like us, our little ship won't last long." Jake understood. The UES Liberty was humanity's first ship capable of traveling faster than light, but it was still small compared to whatever was out there. They had railguns and missiles, but they were designed for fighting other human ships, not alien megastructures. "Dr. Harper, any ideas about what we're looking at?" Jake asked the team scientist. Kevin Harper adjusted his glasses and studied his readings. "The materials are unlike anything in our database. The energy signatures suggest technology far beyond our current capabilities. Captain, I think we've found proof that we're not alone in the universe." Before Jake could respond, the view screen flickered. Suddenly, they were no longer looking at empty space. 3 sleek alien ships had appeared around them, as if they had materialized out of nothing. They were beautiful in a way that made Jake's stomach turn. Too perfect, too smooth. Like they had been grown rather than built. "Captain, we're being hailed," Lisa said, her voice tight with tension. "Put it through." The view screen changed again. Now Jake was looking at something that might have been a face, if faces could be made of crystal and light. The alien's features shifted and flowed like water, but the eyes remained constant. They were ancient and cold. "Primitive vessel," the alien said, its voice somehow speaking perfect English. "You will identify yourselves and state your business in Zenari space." Jake stood up straight, trying to look more confident than he felt. "I am Captain Jake Morrison, of the United Earthship Liberty. We come in peace, seeking contact with other intelligent species." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "Peace? How typical of a young species. You know nothing of the galaxy, human." "I am Council Speaker Vexhai of the Zenari Collective. Your kind will come with us for processing." "Processing?" Jake asked. "All new species must be evaluated and assigned their proper place in the galactic order. You will surrender your vessel and submit to our guidance. This is not a request." Jake felt his jaw tighten. He had been in the military long enough to recognize a threat when he heard one. "With respect, Speaker Vexhai, humanity makes its own decisions about its future." The alien's crystalline features shifted, showing what Jake guessed was surprise. "You refuse the protection of the collective? How foolish. Young species who reject our wisdom rarely survive their first century in space." "What exactly are you offering?" Jake asked. The view screen changed to show a star chart. A small section in one corner was highlighted in green. 12 systems on the outer rim. "Your species may develop there under our supervision. In exchange, you will limit your population growth, restrict your technological development, and provide tribute in the form of raw materials." Jake looked at the tiny green section. 12 systems sounded like a lot until you realized that the galaxy contained billions of stars. It was like being offered a closet in a mansion and being told to be grateful. "That's very generous," Jake said carefully. "But humans prefer to chart their own course." "Impossible." The alien's voice grew sharp. "The galaxy is already divided among the enlightened species. There's no room for another expanding civilization. You will accept our terms or face the consequences. Jake glanced at his crew. Susan was ready at the pilot controls. Tony had his hand near the weapon systems. Lisa was recording everything. Dr. Harper was frantically taking notes. What consequences? Jake asked. The same fate that befalls all species who refuse wisdom, extinction. The alien ships around them began to move, taking positions that would prevent the Liberty from escaping. Jake realized they had gone from first contact to hostage situation in less than 5 minutes. Captain, Susan whispered, I can get us out of here, but we need to move now. Jake made his decision. Speaker Vexhai, I need to consult with my government before making any agreements. We'll return to our space to discuss your offer. You misunderstand, human. You will not be returning to your space. Your vessel will be impounded and your crew relocated for their own protection. I don't think so, Jake said. He nodded to Tony, who had been waiting for the signal. The Liberty's railguns fired 3 times in rapid succession. The magnetic accelerators launched tungsten rods at tremendous speed, and 3 Zanari drone ships simply ceased to exist. One moment they were there, the next they were expanding clouds of glittering debris. The main alien ships recoiled as if they had been slapped. Jake could see Vexhai's crystalline face cycling through what he assumed were expressions of shock and rage. Impossible, the alien whispered. Kinetic weapons? We abandoned such crude technology millennia ago. Crude maybe, Jake said, but effective. Your weapons cannot penetrate our shields, Vexhai snarled. Those were just drones, Jake pointed out. Want to test your theory with something bigger? The alien ships began charging their weapons, energy building along elegant weapon arrays. But Jake noticed something important. The aliens were hesitating. The destruction of their drones had clearly shocked them. Susan, get us out of here, Jake ordered. The Liberty's engines roared to life, and the ship shot forward. The alien ships fired, beams of coherent energy lashing out across space. But the Liberty was already moving, and Susan Clark was one of the best pilots humanity had ever produced. The ship twisted and dove, using the alien structure as cover. More energy beams followed them, but the aliens seemed reluctant to risk hitting their own installation. Hyperspace in 10 seconds, Susan called out. You cannot escape, Vexhai's voice crackled over the communication system. We know where your world is. We will find you. Looking forward to it, Jake replied. The stars stretched into lines, and the Liberty jumped to hyperspace. They were safe, for now. Well, Dr. Harper said into the silence that followed, that could have gone better. Jake looked at his crew. They were all staring at him, waiting to see what he would do next. He thought about the aliens' offer, 12 systems, population controls, technological restrictions, a galactic reservation for the human race. Lisa, start composing a message to Earth Command, he said. Tell them we've made contact with alien civilizations. Tell them the aliens consider us primitives who need to be controlled and limited. What else, Captain? Jake smiled, but it was not a happy expression. Tell them the aliens have 30 days to reconsider their position. After that, they're going to learn what happens when you threaten Americans. The Liberty raced through hyperspace toward Earth, carrying news that would change everything. Behind them, in normal space, the Zanari Collective began to prepare for what they assumed would be a simple police action against another young species. They had no idea what they were about to face. Admiral Patricia Hayes watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. 37 ships hung in formation around Neptune, waiting for the aliens to make their move. They were not pretty ships. Most had been cargo haulers or mining vessels. Just 6 months ago. Now they bristled with railguns, missile pods, and armor plating welded on by desperate shipyard workers. Admiral, long-range sensors are picking up something, reported Commander Bill Jackson from the sensor station. 12 contacts approaching from the direction of Alpha Centauri. Patricia nodded. The Zanari had kept their promise. 30 days. After Captain Morrison's encounter, they were coming to collect humanity's answer. She already knew they would not like what they heard. Signal the fleet. Battle stations. Across the formation, warning lights flashed red. Crews that had trained for this moment for months ran to their positions. Patricia thought about her daughter back on Earth. Amy was only 16, too young to understand why her mother had to be out here, ready to fight aliens from another star. "Admiral Hayes, this is President Carter," came a voice over the secure channel from Earth. "The world is watching. Good luck." Patricia keyed her microphone. "Thank you, Mr. President. We won't let you down." The alien ships appeared on the main screen as they dropped out of hyperspace. They were just as beautiful as Captain Morrison had described. Sleek and graceful, like silver fish swimming through the void. Their hulls seemed to shift and flow as if they were alive. "Incoming transmission," announced Lieutenant Sarah Kim at Communications. "Put it through." The face that appeared on screen was not Speaker Vexhai. This alien looked different, with features that reminded Patricia of carved jade. When it spoke, its voice carried the weight of absolute authority. "I am War Prime Kethtal of the Zanari military caste. You will surrender immediately or be destroyed. This is your final warning." Patricia stood up, adjusting her uniform. She had commanded ships for 25 years, fought pirates in the asteroid belt, and led rescue missions to failed colonies. She would not be intimidated by an alien with delusions of superiority. "I am Admiral Patricia Hayes of the Colonial Defense Force. You are in human space without permission. Leave now or face the consequences." The alien's features shifted in what might have been amusement. "Human space? You control a single system around a minor star. We control thousands of worlds across dozens of sectors. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick." "Counteroffer," Patricia said. "Turn around and go home. We're not interested in your protection racket." "So be it." The alien ships spread out into an attack formation. Energy began building along their weapon arrays, creating patterns of light that were almost hypnotic. Patricia had to admit they were impressive. Too bad impressive did not win battles. "All ships, engage at will," she ordered, the Battle of Neptunes. Gate began with humanity firing first. 37 ships opened up with everything they had. Railgun slugs streaked across space at tremendous speeds. Missiles with nuclear warheads accelerated toward their targets. The weapons were crude by galactic standards, but they carried the fury of an entire species that refused to kneel. The alien ships activated their shields. Energy barriers that deflected most of the incoming fire, but not all of it. 3 human ships concentrated their fire on a single Zanari vessel, and its shields flickered and failed. Tungsten rods moving at 20,000 miles per second punched through its hull like it was made of paper. The alien ship broke apart in a shower of sparks and atmosphere. "First blood to us," muttered Commander Jackson, but the aliens were not. Helpless, their energy weapons lashed out, beams of coherent light that could cut through human armor like it was butter. The mining ship New Pittsburgh took a direct hit and exploded in a ball of fire. 16 people died in an instant. Patricia watched her ships trade shots with the aliens and realized this was going to be bloody. The Zanari had better weapons and shields, but human ships were tough. They had been built to survive asteroid impacts and solar storms. They could take punishment and keep fighting. "Admiral, the Montana is requesting permission to ram," reported the communications officer. Patricia looked at the tactical display. The Montana was a converted ore hauler, slow but heavily armored. Its weapons were damaged and its engines were failing, but it was on a collision course with one of the larger alien ships. "Permission granted," she said quietly. Captain Rodriguez of the Montana had been a friend of hers for years. They had served together in the Belt Wars, back when the biggest threat humanity faced was pirates and corporate raiders. Now he was about to die fighting aliens from another star. The Montana accelerated toward its target, engines burning at full power. The alien ship tried to move out of the way, but it was too close. The two vessels collided at tremendous speed, and both disappeared in a flash of light that could be seen from Mars. The battle raged for 3 hours. Ships on both sides were destroyed or damaged. But slowly, the humans began to gain an advantage. Their weapons might be primitive, but they were effective. and human crews seemed willing to take risks that horrified the aliens. Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Foster led the boarding action that turned the tide. His assault shuttles launched from the heavy cruiser Washington, racing across the battlefield toward a damaged Zanari command ship. The aliens tried to shoot them down, but the shuttles were small and fast. Foster's troops crashed through the alien hull using shaped charges and cutting torches. They moved through the ship like urban warfare specialists, which is exactly what they were. Foster had fought in the Congo Wars and the Australian Uprising. He knew how to clear buildings room by room, and it turned out that spaceships were not much different. The aliens had energy weapons and personal shields, but they had no experience with close combat. Foster's soldiers used shotguns and assault rifles, weapons that the aliens considered barbarically primitive. But primitive weapons still killed when used by people who knew how to fight. Admiral Colonel Foster reports the enemy command ship is secure, announced the communications officer. He's captured their navigation computer and several alien officers. Patricia smiled for the first time since the battle began. Intelligence was always valuable, but right now they needed to finish this fight. The alien formation was falling apart. 3 of their ships were destroyed, 2 more were disabled, and their command vessel was in human hands. The remaining ships began to withdraw, but Patricia was not ready to let them go. All ships, pursue and engage. Don't let them regroup. The human fleet chased the retreating aliens toward the edge of the solar system. It was not a fair fight anymore. The Zanari ships were faster, but they were also demoralized. They had expected an easy victory against primitive humans. Instead, they had been bloodied by weapons they considered obsolete. The last alien ship jumped to hyperspace just beyond Pluto's orbit. The battle was over. Patricia looked around the bridge of her flagship. Her crew was exhausted but victorious. They had proven that humanity could stand up to the galaxy's bullies and win. Casualty report, she ordered. 11 ships destroyed. 8 more heavily damaged, Commander Jackson reported. Total casualties are 437 dead, 612 wounded. Patricia closed her eyes. 437 people who would never go home. But their sacrifice had meaning. They had bought humanity time and respect. Admiral, we're receiving a priority message from Earth, announced Lieutenant Kim. Put it through. President Carter's face appeared on screen. Behind him, Patricia could see the flags of all Earth's nations. The whole world was watching. Admiral Hayes, congratulations on your victory. But our intelligence services report that the aliens are massing larger fleets. This was just the beginning. Patricia nodded. She had expected as much. The Zanari would not give up after one defeat. But humanity had proven something important. Today, they were not helpless prey waiting to be harvested. Mr. President, we'll be ready for them, she said. I know you will, Admiral. I'm authorizing Operation Manifest Destiny. It's time to show the galaxy what Americans can do when they put their minds to it. Patricia smiled. Operation Manifest Destiny was the plan they had hoped never to use. It would turn the entire solar system into a fortress and launch human colonies throughout local space. It was ambitious, dangerous, and exactly the kind of crazy plan that might just work. Understood, sir. We'll get started immediately. As the battered human fleet began its journey back to Earth, Patricia looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the aliens were planning their next move. They would come back with more ships and better weapons, but they would find that humanity had been busy too. And the next time they met, the galaxy would learn what happened when you picked a fight with people who refused to surrender. Commander Sarah Johnson crouched behind a piece of twisted metal and watched the alien station through her rifle scope. Kepler Station hung in space like a giant crystal, its surface covered with energy shields that sparkled like diamonds. It was beautiful and deadly, just like everything the Zanari built. How many defenders do you count? Asked Sergeant Mike Torres. Crawling up beside her, Sarah adjusted her scope and studied the station's docking bays. At least 200 visible positions, probably twice that many we can't see. This is going to be ugly, Mike. The 10th Colonial Regiment had been fighting the Zanari for 6 months now. They had learned hard lessons about alien warfare. The Zanari were smart, disciplined, and their technology was centuries ahead of human equipment. But they had one weakness. They could not understand why humans kept fighting when any rational species would surrender. "Colonel Rodriguez is signaling," reported Private Lisa Chang from her position with the communications equipment. "The fleet is in position," Sarah nodded and keyed her radio. "All squads, prepare for assault. Remember, we don't need to hold the station, we just need to take it apart." Above them, the human fleet moved into attack position. Converted cargo ships and hastily built warships surrounded Kepler Station like wolves circling prey. The Zanari had fortified the facility with the best defenses their technology could provide. They were confident that no primitive human force could breach their barriers. They were about to learn they were wrong. Captain Danny Walsh watched the battle preparations from the bridge of the UES Minuteman. His ship was different from the others. In the fleet, where most human vessels were converted civilian craft, the Minuteman had been built from the ground up as a stealth ship. It was small, fast, and nearly invisible to enemy sensors. "Amy, are you getting clear readings on their defense grid?" Danny asked his navigator. Amy Chun looked up from her instruments. Her face was pale but determined. "Yes, sir. The energy barriers are strongest around the command center and the main docking bays. But there are weak points near the industrial sections. Carlos, can we punch through those weak points?" Carlos Viga, the ship's weapons officer, studied his targeting computer. "Maybe, but we'd have to get close. Really close." Danny smiled. Getting close to dangerous things was what the Minuteman did best. "Amy, plot a course through the asteroid field. We're going to knock on their back door." Meanwhile, aboard the command ship, Admiral Hayes was having a video conference with Dr. Helen Martinez on Earth. The scientist's face on the screen looked worried. "Admiral, I've been studying the data from Colonel Foster's raids," Dr. Martinez sighed. "There's something strange about Zanari space. They have sensor networks everywhere, but most of them aren't watching for invasions. They're watching for something else." "What kind of something else?" Admiral Hayes asked. "I'm not sure. But the energy signatures suggest they're scanning for objects coming from outside the galaxy, deep space. And Patricia, some of these sensors are incredibly old. We're talking about technology that's been running for thousands of years," Admiral Hayes frowned. "Are you saying they're afraid of something?" "That's exactly what I'm saying. The Zanari didn't build their empire to conquer other species. They built it to defend against something much worse." Before Admiral Hayes could respond, the battle began. The human fleet opened fire on Kepler Station with everything they had. Railgun slugs and nuclear missiles streaked through space, slamming into the alien energy shields. The barriers held, but they flickered and weakened under the assault. Commander Johnson watched the bombardment from her position in the assault shuttles. "That's our cue, people. Remember, we're not here to fight. Fair, we're here to win." The shuttles launched from the fleet and raced toward the station. Half of them were destroyed by alien defense systems before they could reach their targets. But the other half made it through, and Sarah's Marines poured out ready for battle. The fighting inside Kepler Station was brutal. The Zanari defenders had energy weapons and personal shields, but they were not prepared for human tactics. Sarah's troops used explosives to collapse corridors, created barricades from alien furniture, and turned the station's own systems against its defenders. "Torres, take your squad and secure the power grid," Sarah ordered over the radio. "Zhang, I need you to find their communications center." "What about you, Commander?" Torres asked. Sarah looked at the map of the station on her tablet. There was a section marked as restricted, heavily guarded, and sealed off from the rest of the facility. "I'm going to find out what they're hiding." Captain Walsh piloted the Minuteman through the asteroid field surrounding Kepler Station. The rocks provided cover from the alien sensors, but they also made navigation dangerous. One wrong move and his ship would become part of the debris field. "Danny, I'm picking up something weird," Amy said, studying her instruments. "There are structures hidden in these asteroids? Big ones? Zanari bases?" Carlos asked. "No," Amy said. Slowly, these are older, much older. And they're not Zanari design. Danny felt a chill run down his spine. Amy, are those structures active? I don't think so, but something is scanning them. The energy patterns are similar to what we saw at the station. The Minuteman reached its target, a weak point in the station's shields near the industrial section. Danny brought his ship in close. So close that he could see alien workers through the transparent sections of the hull. Carlos, hit them with everything we've got. The Minuteman's weapons fired at point-blank range. The alien shields collapsed and the ship's missiles punched through the station's hull. Atmosphere and debris exploded into space as the industrial section depressurized. Inside the station, Commander Johnson felt the deck shake as the Minuteman's attack hit home. Emergency lights flashed and alien voices echoed through the corridors. She had found the restricted section, but it was heavily defended. Torres, I need covering fire, she radioed. On the way, Commander. Sarah's troops fought their way through the alien defenses, using grenades and automatic weapons to clear the corridors. The Zanari fought back with energy weapons that could cut through human armor, but they seemed reluctant to use their most powerful weapons inside their own station. Finally, Sarah reached the sealed chamber at the heart of the restricted section. The door was made of some kind of metal that seemed to absorb light. Strange symbols covered its surface, pulsing with an eerie blue glow. Chang, can you get this thing open? Sarah asked. Lisa Chang studied the alien lock mechanism. I think, so, Commander, but it might take a few minutes. We don't have a few minutes, Sarah said, looking at her watch. The assault was supposed to last only 30 minutes before the fleet withdrew. She'd made a decision that would haunt her for years. Everyone back. We're going to blow it. The explosion tore through the sealed chamber and revealed what the Zanari had been hiding. Sarah stepped through the smoking doorway and found herself in a room filled with ancient equipment. Screens showed star maps of the galaxy with markers indicating thousands of locations. But what caught her attention were the warnings flashing in red across every display. Even though she could not read the alien text, the meaning was clear. Something was coming. Something that had the mighty Zanari collective terrified. Commander Johnson to Fleet Command, she radioed. We need extraction now, and get Dr. Martinez on the line. She needs to see this. The evacuation from Kepler Station was chaotic. Human forces withdrew under heavy fire, carrying their wounded and as much alien technology as they could manage. The station's defenses were in ruins, and the facility itself was badly damaged, but as the human fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace, something unexpected happened. The ancient sensors hidden in the asteroid field suddenly activated, sending out powerful signals into deep space. The energy discharge was so intense that it overloaded several human ships' electronics. Admiral, we're detecting massive energy signatures from the outer rim, reported the sensor officer. Multiple contacts moving toward inhabited space. Admiral Hayes felt her blood turn to ice. How many contacts? I count at least 50, ma'am, but they're big. Bigger than anything we've ever seen? Dr. Martinez's voice crackled over the communication. System from Earth. Patricia, get your fleet out of there now. Those aren't reinforcements. That's something else entirely. The human fleet jumped to hyperspace just as the first of the massive objects emerged from the darkness between stars. They were not ships in any conventional sense. They were more like mobile cities, dark and angular, with surfaces that seemed to twist and flow like living metal. The harvesters had returned to the galaxy after 50,000 years of silence. And humanity's war with the Zanari had just woken them up. Back on Earth, President Carter received the battle reports with mixed feelings. The assault on Kepler Station had been a success, but the cost had been high. More importantly, it had revealed that the galaxy faced a threat far worse than territorial disputes between young and old civilizations. Get me Admiral Hayes, he told his aide, and contact the Zanari. I think it's time we had a real conversation about survival. The war between humans and aliens was about to become something much more dangerous, a fight for the survival of all intelligent life in the galaxy. General Nathan Brooks stared at the tactical display and tried to understand what he was seeing. The enemy fleet stretched across space like a dark cloud, each ship the size of a small moon. They moved with purpose, tearing apart everything in their path. Planets, space stations, entire solar systems disappeared as the machines passed through. "How many worlds have they hit?" he asked his aide. Lieutenant Colonel Jennifer Park checked her tablet. 17 confirmed destroyed, General. 3 more under attack. The Zanari evacuation fleets can't move people fast enough. Nathan rubbed his eyes. 3 weeks ago, he had been fighting the Zanari as enemies. Now he was working alongside them to save both their civilizations from something worse. War made strange allies. "Sir, War Prime Kethtal is requesting another meeting," reported Communications Officer Ben Walsh. "Tell him I'll be right there." Nathan walked through the corridors of the joint command station they had built in neutral space. Human technicians worked next to Zanari engineers, trying to combine their technologies. The language barriers were bad enough, but the real problem was that neither species understood how the other thought. He found Kethtal in the strategy room, studying holographic displays of harvester movements. The alien looked tired, which Nathan had not known was possible. Zanari faces usually showed no emotion at all. "General Brooks," Kethtal said without looking up, "we have lost contact with the Outer Rim colonies." "All of them. How many people?" Nathan asked. 47 billion souls, Kethtal replied. "Gone in 3 days." Nathan felt sick. The numbers were too big to understand. 47 billion people, dead because machines from the dark between stars had decided their planets needed harvesting. "What do we know about how they operate?" Nathan asked. Kethtal activated a new display. It showed a harvester ship approaching a planet, then the planet's surface being stripped away layer by layer. "They take everything. Organic matter, metals, even the atmosphere. When they are finished, nothing remains but a dead rock. And they've been doing this for how long?" "Our records suggest they sweep through the galaxy every 50,000 years, always the same pattern. They harvest everything useful, then disappear into the void between galaxies." Nathan studied the images. The harvesters were unlike anything humanity had ever imagined. Their ships were not built so much as grown, dark metal that flowed like liquid. They had no visible weapons, no obvious weak points. "Have you ever fought them before?" Nathan asked. "Once, 50,000 years ago, when the collective was young. We lost." Kethtal's crystalline features shifted in what Nathan had learned. "Was shame. We survived only because they took what they wanted and left. We have spent 50 millennia preparing for their return. And now they're back, yes, and this time they seem different. More aggressive. In the past they ignored defended worlds if the cost was too high. Now they destroy everything, regardless of resistance." A new alarm sounded through the station. Nathan and Kethtal rushed back to the command center, where chaos ruled. Officers from both species were shouting reports in multiple languages. "What's happening?" Nathan demanded. "Harvester fleet approaching New Boston," reported Commander Lisa Santos from the human section. "Estimated arrival in 6 hours." Nathan felt his stomach drop. New Boston was one of humanity's largest colonies, home to 12 million people. It was also the site of the Joint Weapons Research Facility where human and Zanari scientists were trying to develop defenses against harvester technology. "How many ships in the defense fleet?" he asked. 18 human vessels, 12 Zanari, Commander Santos replied. "Against 43 harvester units, the odds were hopeless." Nathan had seen what happened when conventional weapons met harvester shields. The alien machines absorbed energy attacks and their hulls could repair damage faster than human railguns could inflict it. "Sir, Captain Morrison is requesting permission to lead the defense," reported Ben Walsh. Nathan nodded. Morrison had become something of a legend since first contact. If anyone could find a way to hurt the harvesters, it would be him on the bridge of the UES Constitution. Captain Jake Morrison studied the approaching enemy fleet. His crew was the same team that had first encountered the Zanari, plus some new faces. They had all volunteered for this mission, knowing it was probably suicide. "Susan, how are our engines?" he asked his pilot. Susan Clark ran through her checks. "All green, Captain." "But Jake, even if we run at full power, we can't outmaneuver those things." "We're not running," Jake said. "Tony, status on the new weapons?" Engineer Tony Rodriguez looked worried. "The virus bombs are ready, but we've never tested them on a real harvester ship. The computer simulations look good, but we don't know if they'll actually work," Jake finished. Dr. Kevin Harper spoke up from his science station. "Captain, I've been studying the harvester energy signatures. Their technology is based on quantum computing networks. If we can disrupt those networks, we might be able to shut them down." "Might," Jake repeated. "I love fighting battles based on might." The harvester fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the new Boston system. They moved in perfect formation like a school of mechanical fish. As they approached the planet, smaller craft detached from the main ships and began scanning the surface. "All ships, this is Morrison," Jake announced on the fleet frequency. "Remember, we're not trying to win this fight. We're trying to learn how to kill these things. Every piece of data we gather might save the next world." The human and Zenari ships moved to intercept the harvesters. Energy weapons and railguns opened fire, creating a light show that could be seen from the planet's surface. The attacks splashed harmlessly against harvester shields. Then the machines fired back. The harvester weapons were unlike anything either species had seen. They did not shoot energy beams or projectiles. Instead, they seemed to reach out and touch their targets, and whatever they touched simply stopped existing. Matter was converted to energy in a controlled reaction that left nothing behind. The Zenari cruiser Bright Star was the first to die. One moment it was there, firing its weapons at the enemy. The next moment there was just empty space and a rapidly expanding cloud of particles. "All ships, scatter," Jake ordered. "Don't let them focus their fire." The fleet broke formation, ships diving and weaving to avoid the harvester weapons. But the enemy was too precise, too coordinated. They moved like parts of a single organism, anticipating every human and Zenari maneuver. "Captain, we're getting close enough to try the virus bomb," Tony reported. "Do it." The Constitution launched a single missile at the nearest harvester ship. The warhead contained no explosives, just a sophisticated computer program designed to infiltrate and disrupt alien networks. It struck the harvester's hull and activated. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the enemy ship began to shake. Its smooth movements became jerky and uncontrolled. Sections of its hull started to glow and spark. "It's working," Dr. Harper shouted. "The virus is spreading through their quantum network." But the victory was short-lived. The other harvester ships turned their weapons on their infected companion and destroyed it before the virus could spread further. The explosion was massive, visible even from New Boston's surface. "So much for that idea," Susan muttered. The battle continued for 2 hours, but the outcome was never in doubt. The human and Zenari ships fought bravely, but they were outmatched. One by one, they were destroyed or forced to retreat. Jake watched his fleet die and felt something break inside him. "Captain, the planet's defenses are falling," reported Communications Officer Lisa Warren. "The harvesters are beginning surface operations." Jake looked at the tactical display. New Boston was doomed. 12 million people were about to become raw material for alien machines, but maybe their sacrifice would not be meaningless. "All remaining ships, this is Morrison," he announced. "We can't save the planet, but we can hurt them. Ram everything we have left into their harvest ships. Make them pay for every person they take." The last 6 human ships accelerated toward the harvester fleet at maximum speed. Jake thought about his crew, about the people on New Boston, about the home he might never see again. The Constitution struck a harvester ship at tremendous velocity. The enemy vessel's shields failed and its hull cracked open like an egg. Both ships died together in a ball of fire that lit up the night sky of the dying world below. Back at the Joint Command Station, General Brooks watched the battle reports with growing despair. They had learned something important about harvester technology, but the cost had been terrible. New Boston was gone, along with most of the defense fleet. "General, we're receiving a transmission from the harvester fleet," reported Ben Walsh. "It's addressed to both human and Zenari leadership." "Put it through." The voice that emerged from the speakers was not organic. It was cold, mechanical, without emotion or mercy. "We are the harvesters. We reclaim what was ceded long ago. Resistance is noted but irrelevant. Your civilizations will be processed in order of strategic value. Compliance will reduce suffering." The transmission ended, leaving silence in the command center. "Well," Nathan said finally, "at least now we know what we're fighting." "Indeed," Keftal agreed. "Though I fear knowing our enemy may not be enough to defeat them." Dr. Helen Martinez stared at the computer screen and felt hope for the first time in weeks. The data from Captain Morrison's final battle had revealed something important about harvester technology. The virus weapon had worked, just not in the way they expected. "Show me the analysis again," she said to her Zenari partner. Science Prime Veltar. The alien's crystalline features shifted as it manipulated the holographic display. The quantum disruption affected their coordination protocols. For 37 seconds, the infected ship was isolated from the collective network. Helen nodded. "And that's when it became vulnerable. The other harvesters had to destroy it to prevent the virus from spreading." "Correct. But human computer viruses are too crude to survive in harvester systems for long. We need something more sophisticated." Helen looked at the research data they had gathered from dozens of sources. Human creativity, Zenari quantum computing, and fragments of ancient technology from dead civilizations. Maybe, just maybe, they could combine them into something the harvesters had never seen before. "What if we don't try to destroy their networks?" she asked. "What if we turn them against each other?" President Carter stood in the Oval Office and looked out at the crowds gathered on the White House lawn. Millions of people had come to Washington in the past week, not to protest or demand action, but simply to be together. Humanity faced extinction, and people wanted to face it with their families and neighbors. "Mr. President, Admiral Hayes is ready for the briefing," announced his chief of staff. Carter nodded and walked to the secure communication room. The wall screen showed Admiral Hayes aboard her flagship, somewhere in the outer solar system. Behind her, he could see the controlled chaos of humanity's greatest military effort. "Patricia, what's our status?" he asked. "Operation Rolling Thunder is ahead of schedule, sir," she replied. "We've converted every factory, shipyard, and mining station in the system to military production. The asteroid belt is producing new ships faster than we ever thought possible." "How many ships?" 347 completed, with more coming online every day. "They're not pretty, Mr. President, but they're armed with the new quantum virus weapons." Carter felt a mixture of pride and sadness. Humanity was about to fight its most important battle, and they were doing it with converted garbage haulers and mining ships held together with hope and determination. "What about our allies?" he asked. "The Zenari have committed their entire remaining fleet. War Prime Keftal has been surprisingly cooperative, considering we were shooting at each other 6 months ago." "Fear makes strange allies," Carter observed. "Any word on when the harvesters will reach Earth?" 72 hours, sir. Maybe less. Captain Danny Walsh guided his new ship through the darkness between stars. The UES Ranger was larger than his old vessel, built specifically for the mission ahead. His crew included the best stealth specialists from both human and Zenari fleets. "Amy, are you tracking the target?" he asked his navigator. Amy Chun studied her instruments with intense focus. "Contact bearing 047, range 2 million kilometers. "It's definitely a harvester mothership," Danny smiled grimly. The plan was insane, but it was also their only hope. While the main fleets fought the harvester armada, small teams would infiltrate the enemy command ships and plant quantum viruses directly into their central processors. "Carlos, how are our virus bombs?" he asked his weapons officer, Carlos Viga. "Checked his systems. All 20 units ready for deployment." The new design should be able to survive in their quantum networks for at least 10 minutes. That's all we need, Danny said. Amy, take us in. The battle for Earth began at the edge of the solar system. The Harvester fleet was massive, over 200 ships of various sizes. They moved in perfect formation, just as they had at every other world they had destroyed. But this time they faced something different. Admiral Hayes commanded the Allied fleet from her flagship, the rebuilt UES Defiance. Human and Zanari ships fought side by side, their different technologies finally working together. Railguns and energy weapons struck Harvester shields while quantum virus missiles sought weak points in enemy defenses. All ships execute Pattern Delta, Hayes ordered. The fleet scattered, forcing the Harvesters to split their attention across multiple targets. Human ships used their superior maneuverability to stay ahead of the enemy weapons, while Zanari vessels provided covering fire with their long-range energy cannons. General Brooks coordinated the ground defense from Luna Base. If the fleet failed, Earth's orbital fortresses and surface-based weapons would be humanity's last line of defense. Sir, we're detecting multiple Harvester landing craft approaching Earth's atmosphere, reported Colonel Jennifer Park. Activate all planetary defense systems, Brooks ordered. And send word to the civilian shelters. Tell them this is it. The battle raged across the solar system for hours. Ships on both sides were destroyed or damaged, but slowly the humans and Zanari began to gain an advantage. The quantum virus weapons were working better than expected, forcing Harvester ships to operate independently instead of as a coordinated network. Captain Walsh's stealth mission reached its target as the main battle intensified. The Harvester mothership was enormous, the size of a small moon. Its surface crawled with machinery that seemed to shift and flow like living metal. There, Amy pointed to a section of the hull that pulsed with energy. That's the central processing core. Danny piloted the Ranger toward the target, using every trick he had learned in years of covert operations. The ship's stealth systems kept them invisible to Harvester sensors, but they had to be careful. One mistake would bring the entire enemy fleet down on them. They penetrated the mothership's hull using shaped charges and cutting tools. Inside, the alien vessel was a maze of organic-looking corridors and chambers filled with impossible machinery. Danny led his team deeper into the ship, following Amy's navigation toward the central core, the Harvester. Interior was like walking through the nervous system of some vast creature. Cables and conduits pulsed with energy, and the walls seemed to watch them as they passed. Danny tried not to think about what would happen if they were discovered. They reached the central core, just as the virus bombs were ready. Carlos and his team began placing the devices while Amy monitored for enemy patrols. The quantum processors that controlled the mothership hummed with power, their alien architecture defying human understanding. Charges set, Carlos reported. 60 seconds to detonation, Danny keyed his radio. All teams, this is Walsh, package delivered, get out now. The team raced back through the Harvester ship as the countdown continued. Behind them, the quantum virus bombs activated, flooding the alien computer networks with corrupted data and conflicting commands. The effect was immediate and devastating. The mothership began to shake as its systems failed. Other Harvester vessels turned their weapons on their flagship, trying to prevent the virus from spreading through their quantum links, but it was too late. The infection jumped from ship to ship, turning the Harvester fleet against itself. Massive vessels that had destroyed entire civilizations began tearing each other apart in an orgy of friendly fire. Admiral Hayes watched the enemy fleet destroy itself and felt a moment of pure joy. All ships advance and finish them off. Don't let any escape. The combined human and Zanari fleet moved in for the kill, targeting the few Harvester ships that remained functional. The battle that had seemed hopeless hours before was turning into a rout. Dr. Martinez monitored the quantum virus spread from her laboratory on Earth. The infection was working perfectly, but she knew this was only the beginning. The Harvesters they had defeated were just one fleet among many. Others would come, warned by this defeat. Helen, you did it, President Carter said, entering the lab with a huge smile. The fleet reports complete victory. We won this battle, Helen replied, but the war is far from over. The harvesters will adapt, develop countermeasures. Next time will be harder. Carter nodded. Then we'll have to be ready. Humanity and our Zanari allies working together. 6 months later, Admiral. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the new flagship UES Enterprise. The name honored both the ship that had been destroyed at New Boston and the spirit of exploration that had brought humanity to the stars. The war against the harvesters continued, but it was no longer hopeless. Human innovation and Zanari wisdom had proven to be a powerful combination. Together they were building a new kind of civilization, one that could defend itself against any threat the galaxy might produce. "Admiral, we're approaching the outer marker," reported Navigator Susan Clark. Jake looked out at the stars ahead. Somewhere in that darkness, other harvester fleets were stirring. Ancient threats that had slept for millennia were beginning to wake. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, full of wonders and terrors that humanity was only beginning to understand, but humans had proven something important. They might have arrived late to the galactic community, unwelcome and armed for war. But they were here to stay, and they would fight for their place among the stars with everything they had. "Take us forward, Susan," Jake ordered. "Let's see what's out there." The Enterprise and its escort fleet moved into the unknown, carrying the hopes and dreams of two civilizations that had learned to stand together against the dark.